Good evening, Buffaloes fans. Welcome to not episode 8, as it says in the title right now, but episode 12, as you can see at the top of the screen here, of the Buffaloes podcast on gshow Productions, gshow.ca. For episode 12 of the official Pilot Mount Hockey Academy podcast. It's, of course, brought to you by Make Cannon Fasteners and Tools. Great to have them as a sponsor, an official sponsor of gshow Productions again for 2024. Your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. Be sure to visit their website today for more information at makecannonfasteners.shop, as well as check out their store locations in Brandon and Winnipeg. Also brought to you by Terrico, serving Manitoba producers for over 80 years. Be sure to visit their website at terrico.ca today to check out why they're so trusted by Manitoba producers in the agricultural industry. And we're also brought to you by Goaltenders, your goalie's personal video review service. Be sure to visit their website to check out what all the fuss is about. GordyTumilsonGoalies.ca. Speaking of Gordy Tumilson, he's going to be joining the show as the second guest for this episode. We're going to be starting off with talking to Carson Carrolls, welcoming him back on the show here. He's currently in Prince George, playing for the Prince George Cougars. I had a chance to ask Carson in a pre-recorded interview about what the experience has been like playing with the WHL's Prince George Cougars in his first taste of WHL hockey this season, as well as talking about his time this season, how things have gone along with the U17 Buffaloes in his first year with that program. You're watching the Buffaloes podcast here on gshow Productions. Up next, the first guest to start things off is Carson Carrolls here on episode 12. Enjoy, everybody. It's Carson Carrolls joining the Buffaloes podcast for the second time. He's currently in Prince George playing for the Cougars. He's played 5 games with them this season. He's registered 2 points, second on PMHA, 17 in points, one behind Hurst now with less games played, of course, because he's been with the Cougars. But Carson, sporting your Cougars hoodie tonight, spreading the team or wearing the team drip. That's awesome to see. How has life in Prince George been for you, man?
It's been really good. Adjustment from obviously from the prairies to the coast is a pretty big change, but it's been paradise, as lots of other guys say.
Yeah, that's great to hear. You getting a change of scenery in that way. What's been the coolest experience so far in terms of switching locations, being in Prince George compared to small town Pilot Mountain?
Probably the biggest and unique thing is just you look out your window and there's mountains, and you look out your window in Pilot Mountain and you can't see anything, or you can see things for miles away. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it is quite a difference when you go to other places that aren't the prairies here. I was in BC in May of last year to visit a buddy, and it was night and day. The difference, and yeah, kind of an obvious choice. I feel like you go with there, the mountains, the view
Yeah.
compared to Pilot Mountain. But we showed your first lap, your the traditional rookie lap that teams always do for new players coming in. Take me through that experience, as well as playing in your actual first WHL game with the Cougars in regular season.
Well, obviously there was a bunch of nerves, and for me, I think I was more nervous for trying to hit the net when I was doing my rookie lap than actually playing the game with everyone. But as the game went on and I got a few shifts under my belt, I kind of realized I can play with those guys, and I started getting more comfortable. And obviously, you said I have 5 games under my belt now, and it's been, or I've been just trying to learn from everyone and be as comfortable and confident as I can.
Yeah, and you've been able to record points as mentioned, 2 assists in the 5 games played. What's that done for your confidence, knowing that not only you can go out, but you can also show your offensive side at that next level?
Uh, been a huge it's been a huge confidence booster for sure. Just getting those 2 points and seeing on paper that I can be playing up here and playing the league and that. So that's what really has helped.
You had a chance to, play in some exhibition games earlier on this year. You had a chance to spend time in camp with that team, during the early stages of the junior hockey season back in September. At this point, though, with you spending 5 games, obviously being a younger guy, a rookie being there, can you tell me about someone that's maybe been a mentor for you on this Cougars team during your time there so far?
Uh, well, I think I mentioned this guy at my one of my interviews at camp, but Hudson Thornton's just like instantly took it or taking me under his wing, and he's such a great guy, and he's our captain, and I don't know, I just want to kind of role model my game around him too, and he's just such a great person, so that's what I kind of look forward to being.
Yeah, always great to take a look at someone, you see yourself or want to see yourself becoming it, and great to hear that someone like Hudson Thornton, during your time in your, I guess, not full rookie season, but getting a taste of things early on here in your WHL career with Prince George. But when do you return to Pilot Mountain? How much longer are you going to be staying out with Prince George?
Well, I've been here before the Christmas break, then right after Christmas break, I've been back here, I guess. So I've been here about over a month, and then I leave tomorrow to fly to Vancouver, and I meet up with my team there, and we play a showcase in Vancouver.
Well, right on. We'll be reuniting with the team soon. But
Yeah.
gotta ask you, since it's the first episode back since the holiday break, I assume you had a chance to go back home, spend some time with the fam. How nice was that? Getting a break from just everything you've been going through this year, all the success you've had to, obviously you've had that success, but there's been a lot on your plate to have a break for just a bit. How nice was that?
It was really nice. You got to you got really to be able to clear your head and almost look back on all your moments and accomplishments throughout the whole year, and it was a great year for me and for Pilot Mound, obviously, and family. So I say 2023 was pretty successful.
And it started off really well for the U17 Buffaloes. This team has lost more as the season has gone along, of course, playing tougher competition. That'll happen, especially when you boys were playing, you know, good competition, but not the strongest compared to what you face as the seasons went along. Can you talk about, though, what your experience has been like from the last time we spoke about playing a level up from where you've been in Pilot Mountain before and the success you've been able to have with the 32 points in the 24 games?
Well, obviously, like you said, we started off really hot, and then um, are starting to play those tougher teams and not getting as many wins. But we just try and look at every single game and go into every single game with the mindset that we can play with these guys and or can come out with a win if we play our game and stick to what our coaches say and trust ourselves. And for me personally, it's just like another confidence thing, as I said with the team, that I can play with these guys and that. So
You've had a chance to also play with Benson Hurst this season, who is taken over as the team leader in points. So with 33 games played, 33 points, having a great season for himself. But what's that been like to, of course, succeed personally for you on the ice, but to do it with a guy like Benson?
well, me and him are a great guy or great friends on and off the ice, and I think just our off ice connection goes on to our on ice connection, and we seem to find each other in a lot of different ways on the ice. If that's just breaking out of our own zone or getting in a backdoor play, backdoor, and I think he's helped a lot me, and I think I've helped a lot for him. So continue doing and just keep creating offense and stopping plays.
For this team, Carson, season starts up again, the 2024 portion of games coming up. Yesterday, I guess, once this podcast airs tomorrow, while this interview is being recorded, against Delta Hockey Academy Green, playing teams like BWC Academy Gold coming up, Edge on the 14th, 4 games in 4 days starting on the 11th. Talk about, the challenges coming up that these teams are going to present. Of course, Delta being as good as they've been, as well as this team going up against the other solid competition that you'll face.
Well, I think every single teams has a lot of uh, depth players, and I think that it's just going to be a challenge just to keep trying to line match and play our defensive game and then create offense when we need to on the power play and capitalize on our chances. And I think playing, like you said, those 4 games in 4 days is just our recovery has to be really good to play at our highest every single game.
This team showed a lot of promise early on in the season, as mentioned, with the hot start. Or now 7-7-0-3 in CSSHL play with a -3 goal differential. A fresh start for this team, as well as all the others in the CSSHL, with the 2024 slate of games starting up again. Talk about at this point as a group where you feel this team is at, in terms of the feeling of where things can potentially go and happen for this team by the end of the year.
Well, I think we haven't been at our or playing at our potential for sure, and we had greater hopes for us, and I think going playing how we know we can play and just trying to be students of the game to figure out what's wrong with a bad night or why didn't we score here or why did they score there, and just try and build our game off past mistakes.
Well, right on. This Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy team, you're gonna have a busy next 4 days, starting off tomorrow while this recording is happening, of course, yesterday. By the time when this podcast episode is gonna be airing, Carson Carroll's joining this edition of the Buffaloes podcast. You enjoy the rest of your time with Prince George. Gonna be great to see what happens once you rejoin this Buffalo squad. And best of luck to you and the rest of the team, the rest of the way this season. Carson, thanks for joining me here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Carson Carroll, superstar defenseman for the U17 Buffaloes, currently playing for the team that drafted him first overall in last year's WHL draft. First round in last year's WHL draft in the first round to the Prince George Cougars. He's had a chance to play, of course, 5 games with them heading into, his next game. He'll be playing his 6th. Then he had 2 points, of course, recorded in those 5 games he's played so far. And speaking of Carroll's, his time so far with the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy Buffaloes U17 squad this year, pretty darn good. Yeah, he's not leading the team in points anymore, but by far has the best points per game average out of any player. His D partner, Benson Hurst, looking at it, leading all Buffalo's U17 players in points in total games right now at 33 points in 33 games played. Phenomenal season for them. And yeah, as mentioned, this U17 team has fallen off as the season's gone along. As you take a look at the U17 standings in the CSSHL, Pilot Mound near the start of the season and for much of the first half of the season was a top 10 team in the standings, but played tougher competition. That record going back down to earth a bit for Pilot Mound, moving to 7-8-3-0-0-1 as that 2023 portion of games, that schedule concluded. And for this U17 squad, they will be in action this weekend once again. They've already played games, losing in OT actually yesterday 2-1 to Delta Hockey Academy. They played this morning against the BWC Academy Gold team. They'll have a doubleheader tomorrow. And joining me next up to speak about not only the U17's upcoming weekend of games, but the U15's as well as the U18 male and female team is going to be Gordy Tummelson coming on, goalie coach, marketing director, and a man that wears many hats at Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy to talk about how things have gone to start off out of the games that have already been played out of these teams from these four programs, as well as what's ahead this weekend. Coming up next on episode 12 of the Buffaloes podcast here on G Show Productions, brought to you by Midcan Fasteners and Tools, Terrico, and Goaltenders. Gordy Tummelson up next here on gshow.ca on our coverage of the Buffaloes podcast. Stick around, everybody. Great to have this guy on for the first time in 2024 in the return of the Buffaloes podcast here on G Show Productions. Gordy Tummelson. Gordy, all teams are back in action in Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. The U17s, they played their second game back. Today we'll get into them in just a bit here, but the U18 female squad playing this past Wednesday against St. Mary's Academy in their return to play at the Rink Training Center in Winnipeg, Manitoba. How things fared for the U18 females in their return?
Yeah, it was a loss, 6-3. Good game. 4-3 going into the third period, and St. Mary's had a little bit more power than we did, and I think they just kind of overwhelmed us a bit. But good hockey game and pretty close on the shots department. So all in all, a worthwhile event for our girls. And yeah, they have good games against St. Mary's all the time. So that was another good one.
Yeah, St. Mary's a fourth place team at this point in the CSSHL standings, in the season standings at 10-2-0, 1-1. Like you said, close heading into the third period. Had them at 4-3. Shots were closer to, against this St. Mary's Academy team. Talk about how huge that is in the first game back for this U18 female team to be as close against St. Mary's as they were once again.
Yeah, that's great. Certainly, it gives the kids some more confidence and whatnot, and gets everybody back into action. Waiting for some future games, but nonetheless, being close and being good for in the game, really makes a difference. So we're looking forward to continued growth in that program.
The U17 program was in action for the first time for their 2024 portion of games yesterday against Delta Hockey Academy, and the U17s fighting until the end, losing in a tough one in the shootout 2-1, but to come back and to compete against a Delta Hockey Academy team, especially without who has been Pilot Mountain's best player throughout this year in Carson Carrolls, how huge is that to only lose by that amount?
Yeah, close game. Really good. We were right in it all the way. They did outshoot us a bit, but not by terribly too much. And Kyle Bielman was really good in goal for us, steady as a rock as he's been most of the season. And so yeah, we were right there. And too bad we couldn't come up with a win. But we don't seem to have as many good goal scorers as some of these other teams, the natural guys, right? So sometimes if the games are close and low scoring, yeah, we take it on the chin a little extra, but nonetheless, good game. And our kids only came back. I know our kids only came back on Sunday, and most of the other CSSHL teams got back on Friday. So we're probably a practice or two behind. That always makes a difference when you get into these games right after lots of turkey and a break. So we'll look forward to better things for our guys down the road.
Yeah, and this squad took on BWC Academy Gold this morning. Haven't seen the result come through there yet, Gordy. Not sure if you know it. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But Pacific Coast Hockey Academy tomorrow for this squad at 1:30 p.m. And then finishing off with an early one, 7:45 a.m. against Ed School Gold on that Sunday morning. But this team is going to get Carson Carrolls back shortly here. A team that had a successful first half for their standards, starting off at least, and then coming back down to earth, things went along. For this U17 group, like you said, not with the same amount of practice time as some of these other teams as they start to get back in the groove of things. Definitely a lot of optimism, I assume, around this team for the rest of the way this year.
Yeah, this is our best team. It's probably a 500 team when we get right down to it, and that's kind of where they're at, and that's where we expect them to be the rest of the season. And so, yeah, good on them to be close in the first one. Yeah, I don't know the score in the BCW game, but that's a really good team. So we're expecting to probably not do as well as we did in the first game. Pacific Coast, we should be better against, and then Edge Gold is pretty good. So they're probably the upper echelon again. And so it's kind of a 50-50 weekend for us. If we can get a win here in the Pacific game, that'd be nice, and stay close on the other two. Bonus for us.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you there, Gordy, in terms of this being the Academy's best team this season, just based off the results. A well-coached team and a team with some talent, especially on the back end, highlighted by Bensonhurst and, of course, Carson Carrolls. But for this U15 Buffalo squad, a team that has some talent for themselves, obviously, throughout that program this season, taking on Notre Dame tonight. The Notre Dame Hounds, a team this U15 team has had some success against this season. Gordy, nice for them to be going up against this type of opponent to start things up again.
Sure. The If you'll notice, in Notre Dame, and then we play Prairie Academy on Sunday. We got two games at Notre Dame, small academies, and probably at the bottom end of the standing spectrum, just because we've been beaten up a little bit in the small side through COVID, and just get ramping back up. And here's Notre Dame, probably the most storied academy in Canada, with Lemieux and those kind of guys coming out of there, Mario Lemieux and those kinds of people going through there, and yet not being able to attract the top players. And so we're all the small academies are a bit of a struggle to find players. I'm happy to report we have 20 brand new scouts out there beating the bushes for players on all four of our teams. And so that is going to change. That's a promise I made to our board of directors, that we were going to do better, and we're going to do better. We're going to have better players, and they're going to want to come back to us and play for us, et cetera, et cetera. The U15s, of course, we're going to replace 16, 17, 18 players next year. So we need to be all over that group for sure, because that's kind of the future, right, for us, moving them up the ladder as best we can after the first season.
Yeah, and I guess getting away from just this team in general this season, but this program in general, right? A newer program to the academy compared to the ones like the U17 and the U18 female one that were there prior, a few years before. Of course, this program has been able to attract some pretty great players. Carson Carrolls being the most notable one. He's moved up in the academy. Many have moved up from that program to U17 and even the U18s afterwards. Is that where the focus is at with this program in particular, Gordy? Not sure if we've ever brought this up, but like you said, using it as that feeder school to give young players a taste of what's to come and to attract them to the U17 and U18 squads.
Well, in theory, that's the plan. There's no question. Is you'll get some really good kids in there and grow them into the next level, the next team. And so U17, U18, that just makes sense. Now, it's not always the theory and then the practical are two different things. But if we can pull 50% of those kids at some point into the U17 program, wow, that makes it a lot easier for that program. And of course, then we've got the kids in our program. We know they're getting developed. We know where they're going. We can keep an eye on them, and hopefully they can take that 50% and more and bump them up to the U18 program. It's that's the goal of all of the academies. It doesn't always work, and certainly there's a lot of reasons for that. There's the kids don't play as well, or they get hurt, or they choose not to come back for other sort of social reasons or home reasons. Money's an issue. The money becomes an issue possibly after first or second or third year. It's an expensive program, and not everybody can, mortgage the house 4 times to let their one boy play hockey in a special place. So there's a lot of reasons for it to not work, but that's the goal, is to move the kids from one level to the next and just keep them age advance them, and bingo, off they go.
Yeah, and we've seen a bit of that already with some U15s advancing into, like, talk about most notably the guy that highlights the list, and Carson Carroll's playing with the U17s in his first season this year. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how that program pans out as the years go along, as it continues to develop. They'll be finishing off their weekend, of course, against Prairie Hockey Academy at 10:30 a.m. around there, Central Time, or that time this weekend coming up. Gordy is finishing off with the U18 male program. They're in Troy, Michigan this weekend, playing a doubleheader tomorrow, starting off their weekend today. This game, I'm sure, is almost done, or pretty much over at this point, between them and the Texas Tigers, but no, sorry, the New Jersey Junior Titans, that is. But for this team, getting to start off on the road to start things off in 2024.
Well, on the road, and they're playing in it's early. I mean, I'm surprised that they've moved these dates back a little bit, but it's the championship round for this division, and so we're playing for the flag, or for the pennant, and that's a good thing. Gives a little bit more impetus. We're also playing against teams that are a little bit more in our at our level of play, and so the kids were really looking forward to getting back down into the states and playing against some of these guys that they've played before, and hopefully we can get some wins down there. And we have 2 flags from down there, 2 pennants over time now. Our U17 guys have got 2 pennants. We're hoping that we can bring a U18 pennant back this year. So I'm counting on my 2 goalie guys there, Hope and Burfoot, to stonewall all these other American teams, and give us a chance to bring home the flag.
Yeah, and it's a great storyline, I think, for the academy to know that they can go out. The teams that have can go to places, various places in the states, and have success, like we saw last season, and carrying in to this year. But for this team, they finished off their 2023 portion of the schedule with a 3-0 win over the Clear Ice Storm in Blaine, Minnesota. Get to start off again in the States. Like you said, moving these games back earlier, being the championship weekend for this division in particular. But if they're able to come away with a championship, let's say that, Gordy, how huge is it with that, or no matter what happens for this team, I guess, in general this weekend, with the positive results that they could build to carry them through for the rest of the year?
Well, the championship banner always gives us a recruitment bonus, right? We can tell people that, yeah, we're the champions of this particular league, this particular division, and that always helps. And of course, it probably helps more in the States, because we're playing down there against their teams. We're one of the few Canadian teams that do this, and so it's nice for us to come back with a good showing, if not the championship, being there and being in the semifinal or final. That's always nice, and we're able to tell people that, and they go, "Oh, okay, that means your program's pretty good." So and that always helps. And so yeah, it's anytime that we can do well anywhere is a bonus for our program. And I guess we always have to remember, it's not just about winning games. I mean, that's we spend so much time on trying to win games, we forget that we're trying to get players to be better, helping us to win games, of course. But let's get them better so they can move up the ladder and get to where they want to get to individually. Again, I'll repeat, no whole team has ever been drafted by a junior hockey program or a college team. It's a one player here and one player there. And so we got to remember that we're trying to develop the individual players, and hopefully that moves into games and wins for us during our seasons and playoffs.
Yeah, and for this U18 program, they'll be, of course, playing, I'm sure, in front of a fair amount of scouts this weekend coming up, Gordy. Their game against the New Jersey Junior Titans happened at 1 p.m. today. 9 a.m. tomorrow, they'll be taking on the Texas Tigers. And then at 5:30 p.m., they'll be taking on the Perkin Dragons tomorrow in Troy, Minnesota at the Troy Sports Rinks. Gordy, it's been great to have you on to start things off here in 2024. I think we kept things a bit shorter today for the folks at home. So until next week, when we do it again, you take care and enjoy the many hockey games that you'll be watching this weekend, I'm sure.
Well, there's about 10 or 12 of them this weekend. Yeah, you keep the long-winded guy off the air. That's a good thing, Graham. I don't mind that.
We
Thanks.
appreciate you, Gordy. Thanks for joining. Gordy Tummelson joining episode 12 of the Buffaloes podcast. Great to reconnect with him for the first time here in 2024. Going to be hearing from Gordy next week as well, so stay tuned for that, Buffaloes fans. But yeah, and this one brought to you by Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools Terrico, and of course Gordy's brand in goaltenders. Yeah, it was great to be able to get some insight in terms of what's ahead and the games that have passed already. Speaking of the U17s, their game today against BWC, they lost it 9-2, so an update for you all on that one that me and Gordy could not give you earlier on. But yeah, speaking of the U17s, they played 2 games already. They'll be finishing off their weekend on Sunday against Edge School Gold. They'll have only one game tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. All games can be seen on Flow Sports, of course. U15s, they start off their weekend tonight against the Notre Dame Hounds. We'll be taking them on tomorrow as well in the afternoon and finishing off their weekend, of course, 10 a.m. Central Time at home at Blackjack Stewart Arena. Catch all the action on Flow Sports. And as for the U18 female squad, as talked about, they ended up losing to St. Mary's Hockey Academy. They'll be finishing off their week of action against the Rink Hockey Academy Winnipeg team coming up this Sunday at 12:45 p.m. Central Time at Rink Training Center. Games can be seen on Flow Sports. And finally, for the U18s, they're in Troy, Michigan this weekend, and they've already played one of their games against the New Jersey Junior Titans. They'll be playing a doubleheader tomorrow, a game starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Time against the Texas Tigers, taking on the Pekin Dragons later on, and depending on what happens for them at the NAPHL Championship weekend, they could be very well playing on Sunday. But to start things off for themselves at this NAPHL Championship weekend, they, of course, played against the New Jersey Junior Titans. This afternoon, it was a back-and-forth game where the captain of the U18 Buffaloes would come up clutch, Calix Monkman sending the game to OT with the tying goal, and then doing this, pulling off some magic, going captain clutch for the Buffaloes in their opening game of the weekend. Calix Monkman getting behind the Junior Titans defense, beating the goaltender for his second of the game winner. The Buffaloes looking to keep the good vibes going tomorrow when they'll be facing off against, of course, the Texas Tigers at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, games can be seen on Flow Sports. We're going to take one more transition here, folks, and I'm going to have some final words on this edition of the Buffaloes podcast for you guys. Some final look at some stats where all these teams line up heading into the return to action in this 2024 portion of games in the CSSHL. You're watching the Buffaloes podcast here on gshow.ca or on our YouTube channel at gshow Productions, brought to you by Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, Terrico and Goaltenders. More to come, Buffaloes Nation, after this transition. Welcome back to the Buffaloes podcast. Hopefully everyone's doing well on this Friday night. Wishing and hoping the best to all of you this weekend ahead, as well as the best in terms of staying safe this weekend too. If you're on the highways driving, stay safe, because at least here in Manitoba, the roads are getting icier by the day, snowier by the day, as winter is in full swing here in Manitoba finally. Manitobans love to complain about the cold, complain about how it was a bit too warm, the weather this winter. Well, Mother Nature hitting us with the classic winter peg temperatures now, at least for myself down here in Winnipeg. But I've been joined by Gordy Tumilson so far in this episode, as well as Carson Carrolls, who's been enjoying his time in Prince George with the Cougars. He'll be rejoining his U17 Buffaloes soon enough, where the U17 Buffaloes, taking a look at their schedule again, actually going to be in BC this weekend. From what Carson told me, he said he's going to be meeting up with the team with them there on that Saturday night. Going up against the Pacific Hockey Academy tomorrow against the Edge School Gold, looking to rebound tomorrow against Pacific Coast Hockey Academy after that 9-2 loss today. But, you know, it's not all bad news around the academy. It never is. Love to talk about the positives, of course, because there's a lot of positives to go around Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, and that extends out to their alumni who are putting in the work and are benefiting at where they're playing. One of those players is Davon Bull, defenseman for the Sioux Lookout Bombers in the SIJHL, winning the Defenseman of the Month for the month of December. Davon was a part of Pilot Mound's U17s, who captured the academy's only ever CSSHL championship back in 2019-2020, moved on to play for the Dryden Ice Dogs, played for the Red Lake Miners last season, now is on the Sioux Lookout Bombers, wearing an A this season, 30 points in 25 games played, on pace for 53 points in 44 games played. Congratulations to you, Davon Bull, on your achievement last month for Players of the Month in the SIJHL. In terms of, how you could potentially become a player like Davon, go down the same type of path that he's gone through in his hockey career. Every player kind of takes a different path. Well, your journey could start at Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, and they're now accepting applications to join one of their 4 programs for the 2024-2025 season. Be sure to check out their website for more information at pilotmoundhockeyacademy.com, and they'll be evaluating players as well, looking to fill out the roster spots they need for these 4 teams, so a perfect place to check out their talent and check out their academy and their facilities and all that great stuff is to come to their evaluation camps starting in March on the 22nd and the 23rd. That's going to be the first set of camps. Of course, male U15 prep and female U18 prep will go on those dates. On April 19th to the 21st, the male U17s and 18 preps will arrive to test things out, to be in these camps. And then on May 11th, it's going to be male and female combined. All of those age groups, U15 through to U18, will be able to come out and participate to see what all of the fuss is about in small town Pilot Mound for Pilot Mound Hockey Academy. And this is an academy that throughout the years has built up a reputation of at least being competitive in games, right? And being competitive as the season goes along, getting better as the season goes along. They don't bring in the highest quality of talent necessarily all the time, even though they do bring in some highly skilled players, as we've seen. Guys like Carson Carrolls, Forrest Carlson, Gavin Noseworthy on those U15 team, right? As well as the U18 female squad in the past, having players that have moved on to play at the collegiate level, and they'll still be having that for the foreseeable future with all of their programs. And it's great to see that there's been some success from these programs. There's been a lot of losses. We're going to take a look at all of that right now to end off this episode, but starting with the U15s, taking a look at where they're at in the standings. They are dead last, 3 points out of that second last place spot with 2 games in hand on Delta Hockey Academy. If this U15 Buffaloes team can start to put some wins together, could we see them rise up to potentially 15th, even 14th in the standings as the season goes along? It should be interesting to see. I mean, this team doesn't lack talent for sure, even though they only have 40 goals for, 106 goals against. This is still a program that's starting up, is still trying to establish themselves, already being in small town Pilot Mound. Those are the things that put yourself at a disadvantage compared to those bigger schools, right, in terms of the rink hockey academies, the Delta hockey academies. But in terms of talent, this U15 team has it, right? Talking about Forrest Carlson, who's going to be playing WHL hockey most likely in his career coming up here. Guys like Cole Landerville, Gavin Noseworthy as well could be future WHLers. And yeah, I mean, these are all guys that are over a point per game. The problem with this U15 team is after that, so you can see that the point totals start to drop off a bit. Cohen Rex Slider with the 13 goals in 37 games, which is pretty solid compared to the rest of his group. But yeah, this Buffaloes team, their success goes as far, it seems like, as these 3 on paper, not to discredit all the rest of the team, but that's just looking based off of this production. Of course, this team, solid in net, of course, with Hildebrand and Cole Baba. Both with, of course, save percentages in the 800s, but a team that has seen their goaltenders facing a lot of shots, as you can see there, throughout this season as it's gone along. Already showed you the U17s earlier on in this episode. We're going to skip past them and go into the U18 male hockey program here, the prep program in Pilot Mound. And yeah, this is a team that near the bottom of the standings, of course, only better than the Wenatchee Wild Hockey Academy U18s and the Notre Dame Hounds, a team that's within distance of, well, it's going to take a lot. I was looking at the wrong team there. But yeah, this is a team that's probably going to finish in one of those bottom 3 spots in the league, a program that is still starting up really in Pilot Mound in their second season, and a team that has seen improvement from last year. This program overall already has more wins than they did last year, 32 goals for 127 goals against. It's definitely been a struggle for them, but once again, going up against more established programs with a lot of skill that this program just can't compete with in terms of that aspect, right, in terms of the resources. But once again, this team better than last year as talked about, and a team that has some good talent when we look at guys like Austin Polanski, Calix Monkman, of course, having a huge game tonight or this afternoon for this Buffaloes team in the NAPHL, a team that works really hard at the end of the day, and a team that has solid goaltenders as well that have faced their fair amount of shots in Quinn Burfoot and Josh Hope. And the huge thing I think for this group is, build off of the confidence, the positives that you get from these tournaments you're playing out in the States, like the NAPHL, right? Because sure, you're going to come home and probably face tougher competition, but any positives you can take out of a season is huge, especially taking a look at last year, for example, right? This team is already better than last year's U18 Buffaloes team, so that's a win at the end of the day. This program, their big focus now is how can we get even better the next season, and how do we finish this season off with building more confidence and getting 1% better each and every time out, right? This team could very well be coming home with an NAPHL banner. Fingers are crossed, but best luck to them this weekend. A team, like I said, that is lacking top-end talent compared to the other teams, especially the top teams in the CSSHL, but a Buffalo squad that, yeah, should definitely be proud of themselves for just the simple fact that you're better than last year's team already, right? But finish off with taking a look at one last team here, a team that is there's the narrative surrounding this team in terms of how things started out with their season, the drama behind the scenes. There's been some coaching changes as well. I mean, there's been emotional roller coasters with this team too, right? Throughout the past 2 years, dealing with some pretty tough stuff to handle. That we won't get into that deeply at this point. But for this Pilot Mound Hockey Academy female U18 prep squad, for this female team, 2-18-1-0-1, tied dead last with Okanagan Hockey Academy Black female U18 prep, 33 goals for 117 against, so more offense distributed compared to them and Okanagan Hockey Academy. And when taking a look at the stats, this team has some players to like, right? When you're taking a look at players like Ashlyn Cuffler and Shayna Bannister, both being neck and neck Shayna Bannister 1 point behind her for the team lead in points, tying her there. Alia Drummond, Piper Miller, right? Miller being a returning player on this team. And in net, Alex Mills and Brooklyn Adams, both solid goaltenders who have faced, once again, quite a bit of shots. And, the big thing you got to love about this team in particular, this group, even though there's been drama, behind the scenes, there's been those coaching changes, it hasn't been always the easiest to deal with those distractions, right, for this team. They've been able to come together as the season goes along, and yes, they are still losing games, but they were close against a team like St. Mary's Hockey Academy, like me and Gordy talked about most recently, 4-3 heading into that third period, coming out with a 6-3 loss. But the fact that they've been able to battle with a team like that, a program that's built themselves into the type of program that St. Mary's Hockey Academy has, it is super impressive, competing more so with the Rink Hockey Academy Winnipeg, this team, which always hasn't been the case for this team. I don't ever think that a successful winning season was in the books for this team at the end of the day, even though the hope for every one of these teams is to have a winning season. But the fact that this U18 female prep team is sticking together as the season goes along, bonding with each other as the season goes along, and really seeing better results, closer games, more competitive games on the scoreboard, and seeing shots cut down, those are some big positives to take away if you're this U18 Buffaloes female program, who will be looking to prove themselves tomorrow, of course, going up against the Rink Hockey Academy Winnipeg team, actually on Sunday, as I should say, is when they'll be playing at 12:45 p.m. Central Time at the Rink Training Center in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The action can be seen on Flow Sports. But yeah, we're gonna take one last transition, folks, just so we can get to the true final words in episode 12 of the Buffaloes podcast here on gshow.ca on G Show Productions on YouTube. Well, you made it to the end of this edition of the Buffaloes podcast. Thank you for tuning in on this Friday night if you did, or whenever you did tune into this one. I hope you did enjoy it. Be sure to leave a like, turn on notifications here on our YouTube channel if you did end up liking this episode. Subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads of episodes like this of the official Pilot Mound Hockey Academy podcast. We'll be back next Friday for another edition of the show, episode 13. Going to be joined by some other guests from throughout the academy. Gordy Tummelson is going to be stopping by once again to give us an insight about what's been going on. Might even have Kurt Fortney on the show, since I was talking to Gordy. He's got even more insight than he does into what's been going on in the academy, with him being a dorm parent and everything. But yeah, stay tuned on our social media as well as on our website. gshow.ca is where you can find us on our website. it's where you may be watching this episode on right now. We'll have all the information for episode 13 coming out on our socials as well. Links or handles in the description to our social media pages on Instagram, X, Facebook, as well on TikTok, where we'll be, giving everyone the details about it, about episode 13. Want to thank Carson Carols as well as Gordy Tummelson for being the guests in this week's episode, and as well to Gordy's Brand and Goaltenders, Your Goalie's personal video review service, for sponsoring this edition of the Buffaloes podcast. Terrico, serving Manitoba producers for over 80 years. Thank you to them for sponsoring another edition of this episode of this Buffaloes podcast. And to Make Canada Fasteners and Tools, thank you to them, your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs, for supporting us and sponsoring episode 12 of the official Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy podcast. As for us on G-Show Productions, no Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy content coming until next Friday, but we have 2 live streams that we're doing this weekend. MFHL Game Day, going to be broadcasting 2 games from Niverville, so should be very exciting. Until next Friday, though, folks, I've been your host, Graham, the G-Show Forsyth, giving you the salute, peacing out, and saying so long. Stay up to date on our website as well. We might have some written stuff coming out about Pilot Mountain in the next few days. Maybe not. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, until next Friday, everybody, have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there. Stay warm as well. And without further ado, Tyson Unruh, take us away on this Friday night for the first time in 2024. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.